और इस सारस्वत अनुष्ठान में उपस्थित सभी सज्जनों का मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं इस प्रथम अकादमिक सत्र में। ज्ञानोत्सव ज्ञान की भूमि में आयोजित हो रहा है। उद्घाटन सत्र में इस भूमि की चर्चा हुई है। साहित्य, मैथिली साहित्य के छात्र होने के नाते मैं इस गांव को जिन महान विभूतियों के सहारे जाना, वो सभी आप परिचित हैं उन नाम से। मैं तो वर्तमान में साहित्य से जुड़े जो व्यक्तित्व हैं वो हम सभी के सामने, हम लोगों के साथ हैं। लेकिन अतीत जिनसे रेखांकित है, कविश्वर चंदा झा, गोविंद चौधरी, प्रभाष कुमार चौधरी, मैथिली साहित्य में, और जैसा कि संजीव बाबू ने कहा, इधर के दिनों में अभिभावक श्रीश चौधरी से स्नेह मिलता रहा है और उसी स्नेह का प्रतिफल है कि कुछ लोगों को छोड़ के, प्रायः उम्र में मैं कम हूं, सभी हमारे श्रेष्ठ हैं। सीखने का अवसर मुझे भी मिलेगा इस अवसर पर। आइए हम सभी समवेत होते हैं आज के इस प्रथम सत्र में। और सर्वप्रथम मैं IIT मद्रास चेन्नई में डॉक्टर राजेश कुमार जी अपनी सेवा दे रहे हैं, अपनी विद्वता से, अपनी कर्मठता से आज हम सबों के बीच। और इस बैनर के नीचे लिखा है, एन एकेडमिक फोरम टू प्रमोट रिसर्च बिहार। जो नए पीढ़ी के लोग हैं वो इन सबों की जो प्रस्तुति है, क्या शिल्प है रिसर्च पेपर प्रेजेंट करने का, मैं स्वयं सम्मिलित करता हूं उसमें। वो सीखेंगे, समझेंगे। स्वागत है राजेश जी। अमूमन संजीव बाबू ने बांध दिया है, आरंभ और अंत को 2 घंटे में समेटना है। कहने की आवश्यकता नहीं कि आज हम अपने वर्ग कक्ष में नहीं हैं, एक सीमित समय में अपने विद्वता को प्रकट करना है। राजेश भाई।
थैंक यू सर। ठीक है, आई थिंक दिस विल बी फाइन। ऑलराइट, प्रोफेसर मेहता, प्रोफेसर झा, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great moment. I am proud to be here because it is one such unique opportunity. I don't think I have spoken to this kind of audience ever before. I have spoken once in Dhar. This is a great moment. I have studied here. I lived here. And then when I started working on, I worked on several other things. I'll go into a little bit of details of that and share it with you. But when I got an opportunity to talk about something at this organization, I thought I'll talk about, you have a short abstract of what I'm going to say in the booklet, and this is called, it's about linguistic identity and how linguistic identity of humans become DNA for any society. That's what I thought I'll talk about. This is not the primary thing that I work for my research, but I take the responsibility of everything that I am going to say and talk about. So, as I mentioned, I studied here, and I don't like talking about myself either in a classroom or in presentation, but in the context of that, I'll tell you, I started studying linguistics because I was not suitable for any admission anywhere else. So that landed me to study linguistics at Delhi University, and I got a chance to study, and then in the process I explored that this is something really worth studying and something that I like doing. I studied English literature in this city, in the city of Darbhanga, in a different city close to Darbhanga, that was Samastipur, and many things that I studied did not make much sense, but still I studied that. So when I started looking at language in particular, I realized that this is good thing, this is something that I wanted to study, and this is relevant and makes sense. And thereafter I started spending time with that. Beginning from there, in all these years while teaching and doing all kinds of things, details are not relevant, I figured out that whatever we do as part of our research, that must have its social relevance. It should be grounded in application. So the theoretical understanding of the study of language, I started looking at its application, and then I went back to the basics of linguistics classes. And I want to start from there. So I will, as part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about how linguistic identity ends up and is DNA of society, and society should be careful about it, should probably need to work on that. So while relating to that, I want to share with you the beginning point of it. During the, I speak Hindi, I have learned, I can manage to speak English. I lived in this place, but I did not find myself suitable enough to speak Maithili. In the previous session, Professor Chaudhary mentioned about परिचय. तो मैं जिसकी बात करने जा रहा हूँ वो पहचान की बात है. समय नहीं है परिचय और पहचान में अंतर बताने का, लेकिन मैं पहचान की बात करना चाहता हूँ. When I was asked, what's the name of your language? Which language do you speak? Honestly speaking, I did not know the name of the language that I spoke. It is very different from Hindi. It is very different from Maithili, and please trust me, in all my years and association with people in and around this place made me believe that what I speak is not Maithili. Like Professor Chaudhary mentioned a few minutes ago, pure Maithili, Shuddha Maithili. In the process we found, and it's not a new finding that I have found, no language is pure. In fact, striving for purity in language is fictitious exercise. He mentioned about Hindi. आप ये एक मिनट में कहने की बात नहीं है, ये रुक कर सोचने की बात है. हिंदी ही खुद हिंदी वर्ड नहीं है, तो किसी भी लैंग्वेज में प्यूरिटी का क्या मतलब हो सकता है? Taking that cue that purity is an impossible target to achieve in a language, I want to talk about identity, and I want to show you how linguistic identity becomes important and relevant for society. So that's the simple introduction of what I wanted to say, and also I added why I wanted to talk about that. Second, so in the next part, In the very few lessons and chapters or papers at Delhi University, we got acquainted with Grierson Linguistic Survey of India. I am very happy to hear, I was just talking to a colleague, Dr. Mithilesh Jha from IIT Guwahati this morning, and the association of George Grierson from this area, this village, is well recorded, well documented. This was great to hear. I must also admit I didn't know about that. So Grierson, in his, that's a monumental work on language in India. It, like different Purans, it's in 18 volumes and so on. People know about that. What is relevant in that, with all his associations of Bihar and understanding, I'm pretty sure, and I don't mean to be sarcastic about it, I'm pretty sure George Grierson and his team was familiar with all parts of India. So, in the process of their familiarity with this place and Bihar, he mentions a term, languages of Bihar is called Bihari languages. Now, you take a moment and see, have you heard, have you heard this name Bihari language? To me, it sounds like somebody who knew nothing about the place would have said, would have grouped the language Bihari languages. And people working on their research and all, being very serious about it, talk about, what do you speak? Is it called Bihari? So that's the situation of languages of Bihar. In my understanding, in my work, I have a list of languages in Bihar, and I must tell you, I don't have the list to read to you, but it's endless list. I counted 52 languages. It's a very small list. And then when I discussed it with friends and colleagues, and those who know about languages in Bihar, they say this is not a complete list. That's a different matter of discussion. But in general, I'm sure I'm going to name few languages, and I'm sure we know about these languages as languages of Bihar. To begin with, Maithili, Bhojpuri, Magahi, and then comes the second tier, Angika, Bajjika, and so on. There are many more. Please keep this thing in mind. What's the reason why Maithili, Bhojpuri, and Magahi speakers are officially counted as Hindi speakers? And including just a minute, in the previous session we heard about what government can do for us and what you need to do. On that note, I want to underline, it's not merely government that forcibly counts us as speakers of Hindi. People proudly mention themselves as speakers of Hindi. That, in my understanding, is resignation to your linguistic identity. And this has roots in all the way in Constituent Assembly debate. I'm sure we need to know, I'm sure that we know, but we need to know that why we have what is that called, Republic Day on 26th January. From 1947 to 1950, it took 3 years for founding fathers of the Constitution of India to debate on the constitutional provisions. But one of the things which has taken longest amount of time is their deliberations on language. And it is recorded history. And in all their deliberations, I can summarize that in 2 minutes. All they found was we can do with Hindi as the first official language of the country, and at the cost and provision of English being the associate official language of the Union. And then there is a list of languages which are called, which are listed in the Constitution, in the 8th schedule of the Constitution of India. I'm sure many people don't either want to know or we don't know the names of those languages. It's a completely independent matter of debate whether that list exists, should exist or not, and what's the importance of that list. That's not important for us. The important point is, when the government of India decided to go ahead with Hindi as one of the as the first official language of India, probably it was not imagined at that point in time, but it has led to recognition of large area of this country
as Hindi speaking area. I leave it for your imagination to draw the picture according to your own choice. What are the areas you want to count as Hindi speaking area of this nation? You will find in that those areas are not really Hindi speaking area. You can begin with yourself. Is Bihar or Mithilanchal Hindi speaking area? Is Bhojpur or Bodh Gaya Bhojpuri speaking area? Sorry, is that Hindi speaking area? I at times I mention, and I don't want to trivialize telling you jokes about these things. I don't want to trivialize the point. Sometimes I tell people that the language of official language of Magadha Empire, Magahi, is considered, and at times people even accept as the dialect of Hindi. Probably if Ashoka were alive, he would have given up Buddhism and picked up sword again. You can't say Magahi and Maithili or Bhojpuri as the dialects of Hindi. These are not the dialects of the dialect that we know. But I'm not trying to talk about what is and what is not the dialect of Hindi. My point is, it happens because people have resigned over their linguistic identity. Now, take a detour on the question of language outside this Hindi speaking area, and I leave it for your imagination. Like I mentioned, what is Hindi speaking area? It's for you to imagine. If you look at that, beginning from any point to any other point, and again, to this audience at least, I don't need to show you the map of India or the map of the places that I am talking about on a PowerPoint or in a slow motion. In some audience, it is required. It is required to make the point, because we can only make these points through the map. Fortunately speaking, I don't need to do that here. So the point is, beginning from Kashmir, in whichever way you want to see Kashmir today, Punjab, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Himachal, Kerala. You count the names of the places that are not counted as part of Hindi area, and this is the main point that I want to drive at, and I'll conclude, and I want to hear more from you than me making something obvious, articulating something that is so obvious to people. So, languages that are spoken in these places, they are not merely names of languages, they are also the names of their composite identity, which includes language, culture, and society. So when we say Bengali, Bengali is not just the name of the language. At the same time, Malayalam or Tamil, or for that matter, anything that you can name, these are not simply names of their names of languages. These are names of composite identity. जिसको मैंने पहचान की बात की है, ये उसका नाम है. And they are out of this vicious circle of what we know as Hindi heartland or Hindi speaking area. My point that I want to drive at you and to conclude this section is Hindi, the areas identified as Hindi speaking area, and please let me allow me to add a footnote. I speak Hindi, and I want to make it clear that I am not speaking against Hindi. I am not saying Hindi is not an important language in our country. In fact, through this footnote, I also want to tell you, Hindi has more relevance, and probably the constitution makers were aware of this when they aligned it with English. Like English is not the marker of identity of any speaker in India, therefore English is not in opposition with any language in the country. In fact, I can go a step further. Every community, every name of linguistic identity would want to put English on top of it. That's acceptable to them just because English is not the marker of their identity. Same way, if Hindi stayed confined by not claiming the space of identity of people, probably it would have larger relevance in the country, and all the names that you can count outside this circle of Hindi speaking area, they resist against Hindi because they feel this language stepping over their identity. And nobody would accept anything in place of anything instead of their identity. They won't allow anything to take their space of identity. So, coming back, this was a little longer, a footnote. So coming back, when you draw the circle of Hindi speaking area, Hindi, and quote, in quotes I am using this word, Hindi has damaged more to Hindi speaking area than it could potentially damage any other culture or any other area. And there are 10 languages spoken in Haryana. There are hundreds of languages spoken in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. These areas are called Hindi speaking areas, which they are not. So I'm mentioning this thing only to make my point that probably Hindi damages more to Hindi, what is known as so-called Hindi speaking area, than it can do anything to any other identity. So I want you to pay attention to my point that when I use the word damage, I don't really mean in that sense. So, coming to the conclusion. So when I was looking at all these things, and I started my point of deliberation on this, which is an ongoing project. It has not completed, and I don't know when it will complete. I started from the point of what I mentioned in the beginning of Grierson's point of Bihari languages. I want to add another, I want to bring another point to your attention, and that will help me relate to what I am saying with Bihar. Again, I may be wrong, you can correct me, but in my understanding, the adjective created out of Bihar, which happens to be Bihari, the word that is mentioned in Grierson's dictionary, it's probably the only ethnic adjective created out of ethnic identity is used as Gali in many places. Do you know about any other ethnic identity which is being used as Gali? Those are the names of their identity. Tamil is not a Gali, Punjabi is not a Gali, Bengali is not a Gali. Why is Bihari? And again, please take this Gali under quotes, because there is no point discussing that. We don't need to get evidence in support of this, because you can travel to any part. People from Bihar would not want to associate with another person from Bihar. They make all deliberate attempts to somehow put their identity behind and put it under carpet. They also work on wearing some other identity that might be anything. I can go into the details of all these points, but in the interest of time, I'm only talking about this thing, and I welcome your disagreement with me on these things to any extent you want. So the point is, why would Grierson talk about it's not that Grierson has not mentioned Maithili, Bhojpuri and these. Why would he group it together and call it Bihari? There is no connection. There is nothing syntactically or linguistically common across these languages. These languages work differently. What was the logic of argument why he put these things together? That's not known to us, and that is not clarified in any one of the volumes of Grierson's Linguistic Survey of India. Number one. Number two, then there is social evidence coming up why people are not ready to own up identity of Bihar. So we don't need to find evidence to say some of the things that I have to say. So my point of conclusion is the entire construct of Bihar. So I told you about Hindi speaking area, and I gave you to draw your boundaries as per your convenience. My argument here is, and here again, I know there could be disagreements about it. My argument is, like Hindi heartland or Hindi speaking area is a fictitious construct, because it damages more to the speakers of the languages who live in these areas than anyone else. So likewise, the entire construct of Bihar, this is where I found the point where I could talk about it. Until then it was just a general deliberations. My understanding of languages of Bihar tells me that the entire construct of Bihar is fictitious. There is nothing called Bihar. And I will explain this to you. Give me a moment. You know, in the human history, one of the bloodiest division of human land has happened on the western side of India when Pakistan was divided. People here who know their history from Humayun's time and all other things about this place or the entire area can understand this more. When the division of Bihar took place, the division of Bengal presidency took place, and it has got divided multiple times. I don't know much about history, but I want to bring only this much of history so that it can help me make my point. When Bengal presidency was divided, there was no claim of Bengali speaking. Okay, please allow me to add the following. You know that southern Bihar, which is now known as Jharkhand, has been one of the most mineral-rich area of the world. This is not something that a linguist or social scientist or historian needs to establish. I want to draw your attention that a steel city, an amazingly important city like Jamshedpur, which is also known as Tatanagar, Bokaro Steel City, these were the important points in Bihar at that point before the division of Bihar and Jharkhand. There was no claim of Bengali speakers beyond Asansol, and there was no claim of Oriya speakers on Jamshedpur at all. Probably, this is my hunch, I haven't read about it anywhere, probably if Oriya speaking people wanted to get Jamshedpur in Orissa and Bengali speaking people wanted land beyond Asansol, they could have got at that time. And this is what I mean by one of the most peaceful division in the history of human race. So, I think I can speak louder. Don't worry. Give me just 2 minutes. I'll continue. So, in that context, I mean, it's a fictitious land. Then, one can ask a question. It's too big a claim to make that the whole construct of Bihar. My argument is. My argument is, in the division of Bengal presidency, people claimed their land and whatever was left out was called Bihar. And I have no idea why it was accepted that way. Then as a solution of this, as a solution to the argument that I am presenting, these places, if they were identified with their linguistic identity, probably the situation of Hindi heartland and approach in wearing linguistic identity would have been very different if the places were known as Mithila, Bhojpur, Magadh. My hunch is Mithila, Bhojpur, Magadh would not lead to the division of North and South Bihar also. So, if you look at the argument in totality of understanding language and its identity, you get to see how linguistic identity constitutes the DNA of the people, and when communities are stripped of this identity, what happens to the land? Probably the adjective turns out to be a gully. I stop here, and I know I can take 5 more minutes. Rather spend that much time on any question or listening to anybody who has to say anything about this. Please trust me, please do feel free to tell me, because it will help enrich my perspective, the way I am looking at this question. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
लिंग्विस्टिक आइडेंटिटी डीएनए ऑफ सोसाइटी, इस टॉपिक पर डॉक्टर राजेश कुमार अपनी बातों को रखा। सर का आग्रह है कि इस संदर्भ में किन्हीं को कोई जिज्ञासा हो तो वो अपनी बात रखें।
Thank you, Rajesh. Wonderfully, I think some arguments are really important in a contemporary situation. So my question is, what about when state division happened on the basis of language? You know, the debate continued from 1950 to 55. It was even after the constitution also. So South Indian states also got separated on the basis of language primarily. It was agreed upon by the committee and all. That was also to large extent peaceful. And this fluidity of language, you know that there are too many languages in North India or particular states. Do you think that reality is also there in South India, or what constituted?
I get the question. Then that's all right. That's all right, sir. I get the question.
Okay.
No, go ahead. You want to complete
Fluidity, yeah. So basically the fluidity of language is very much present in North India, across from north, east to west. But do you think that's also the situation in the South? And to what extent it actually affected the division of the states on the linguistic basis?
Amazing question. Great. Requires lot of discussions. But to be brief, linguistic fluidity is a very important concept.
Languages are fluid in nature. Languages do not have rigid boundaries. And in fact, that is what leads to mixing and to a point where we cannot separate one language from another. That's the realistic picture how we need to understand language. Having said that, the kind of fluidity that you see in the languages of northern part of the country, the same fluidity exists in southern part of the country. And when I gave the example of division of Bengal presidency, I did not mean that this division was peaceful only because of language or no language. That's not my argument. My argument is quite the contrary to the point that you are raising. It's not a sin to raise tough question. My point is the question of statehood across lines of languages is not the right way of understanding statehood in India. It was not aligned according to statehood. In fact, if that was the case, then in modern time you may have seen division of Bihar and Jharkhand and Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. You would not see the division of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The point of division, my understanding is, has never been a serious consideration of language. Whereas my argument is it should have been a serious consideration, then you would not have states like Maharashtra, you would have states like Ujjain, you would have states like Vidarbha, you would have states like Marathwada, Awadh, Braj, and Bhojpur. Then it requires a lot of reorganization. My argument is not a political suggestion. I am making an argument grounded in the scientific study of language and the society, the way language constitutes identity of its speakers.
I have also a question.
Sure, sir.
Thanks a lot for a very illuminating talk, but it's a very problematic area. And the 2 points that relate to the history that have really left me wondering, and I want to bring those points to you. One, you talked about Ashok and the Maghi being, the language then. But as I understand that at that point of time, Maghi was not the language, We hear of Prakrit and Sanskrit in ancient times. Pali was a sacred language among Buddhists. And then we have the origin of Ardha Prakrit and then Upbranch. And from Upbranch you have different languages like Maghi and Maithili and all that. Ardha Maghi was slightly earlier than Maghi. But at the same time, I share your dilemma also, because I have also been trying to work on the historical geography of Bihar. And I have been trying to connect the natural regions of Bihar with other cultural, historical identity. And in that context, I was wondering that though the languages like Magdi, Angika, Bajjika, these are supposed to be originating about 10th, 11th century CE, but at the same time, we have the existence of these collectives right from the Vedic times. Atharvaved talks about, for example, Ang and Magad. You have Shatpat Brahman who talks about Videks. So I am really leaving this question to you to really ponder over that why is it happening. The second point is that you assume that the state of Bihar, whatever the boundaries are the creation of the British times, But even during the time of Akbar, there was a Suba of Bihar. And that Suba of Bihar, now I don't remember exactly the territorial boundaries with the present boundaries, but more or less they are the same, And there are certain points of homogeneity of this land, even earlier, But yet, of course, there are sharp, at least cultural divisions. For example, Buddhism was so prevalent in the Magadhan area, but not so much in Bhojpuri area, or not in the Matthew area. So there, I think I would collaborate what you are saying. So these are 2 points, comments and questions, whatever.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your comments. Just allow me to respond to this and then I'll take other questions, if it is okay. So, thank you. These are very significant questions, and one definitely needs to answer, or at least find an answer to some of these things. I have heard your talk on one of the Gyanotsava series, and yes, both your points are well taken. In a way that I can respond to that, as I mentioned it as a footnote that I don't know much about history, so I only referred to it. My point is not that the Magahi that is spoken now, or it was spoken hundreds of years ago, was also the language of Ashoka. That's not what I mean at all. I would be the last person to make that argument, because we just talked about fluidity of language. We know very well languages change over a period of time. If we look at just merely 400 years of now, 400 years, if somehow resurrection really works and William Shakespeare is allowed to resurrect, he won't be able to communicate with the world in English, because the English that he spoke is not the English that we speak, or even people in his land, in his hometown speaks. So we understand it very well, it did not. But whether it was called Magadhi at a later time, or whatever was the name of the language of that place where Ashoka and his entire dynasty before him or after him ruled, there must have been some connection, or whether or not that connection exists, that's not the point. My point of reference was only that this area, the Magad, whatever was called, the language of Magad and association of the people of Magad with their identity is relevant. Likewise, identity of people of Mithila who speak Maithili. I mean, you can ask anybody, the adjective Maithil does not refer to people of Mithila. It has acquired a very restrictive meaning. So my point is not that the languages were the same. That's one. The second part is so in that context, the point that I am trying to drive about is what happened before is not important. People's linguistic identity with their social identity and recognition of that is an important aspect for people's development. Number 2, you mentioned about history of Bihar and Bengal. I don't mean to contest that argument also. When was it created, or whether Bihar existed or not? My limited understanding and the study of languages of Bihar tells me that linguistically this doesn't look like a homogeneous place. And probably, I will be very happy to take the cues that you have mentioned kindly, why Buddhism did not spread in one part and spread in the other part. Bajji, the language, the place because of which everybody in India, even today, wants to call India as the birthplace of democracy, is probably the reference is coming from Bajji Janpad of Vaishali. The language of that place must have been, it's a conjecture, Bajjika. We neither know about Bajji Janpad nor even know the name of the language Bajjika, but we definitely want to identify ourselves as we are part of the country which is birthplace of democracy. So my point is, the reason why we don't know or we have difficulty knowing about this is because the language and the speakers of their speakers, they don't look at the identity as a holistic thing. Final point of argument that I am trying to make is, I am not making an argument that along the lines of every language, big or small, and it doesn't matter in the number of speakers, we should have a state for speakers of all the languages. That's not the argument at all. Again, my argument is in response to the previous question also, because this is the point where previous question and this gets connected, that the construction of statehood, the argument that smaller states will be difficult to manage, all these things are politically motivated argument. One of the things, and like I said, I am not making any political suggestion. One of the things that must be taken into account, which I find in my work has not been taken into account so far, is the association between its speaker and identity in construction of a statehood. That's all, sir. Thank you.
ऐसा है सर, जो हम लोग इसी सत्र में जी उनको भी मौका मिलेगा प्रश्न का सर जवाब भी थोड़ा संक्षेप में दें, क्योंकि और सारे वक्ताओं के भी प्रश्न होंगे, तो फिर ये समय सीमा 2 बढ़ जाएगी। आगा
जी, राजेश जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस भाषा के विषय पर हम लोगों को प्रकाश डालने के लिए। कुछ सुनते हुए मेरे मन में प्रश्न आए, वो जरूरी नहीं कि आपके एकेडमिक रिसर्च से मेल करता हो, किंतु सहज मस्तिष्क में जो प्रश्न आया मैं पूछ रहा हूँ। एक तो आपने कहा कि जो हिंदी ने लिंग्विस्टिक आइडेंटिटी को मोर डैमेज किया है, तो मैं दूसरी यह प्रश्न कहता हूँ कि किसी भाषा को बिना दोष दिए भी क्या हम इस बात को कह सकते हैं क्या कि लिंग्विस्टिक आइडेंटिटी हमारी कम हुई है, कमज़ोर हुई है, किंतु उसमें किसी भाषा का दोष नहीं है। जैसे आपने सहजता से कहा कि अंग्रेजी को हम दोष नहीं दे सकते हैं, किंतु हिंदी को दोष दे रहे हैं, तो ये हम पर आप प्रकाश डालेंगे, एक बात। दूसरा, आपने कहा कि लिंग्विस्टिक जो आइडेंटिटी है, तो फिर हिंदी जिसको हम नाम लेते हैं, हिंदी भाषा कहते हैं, वो भारत में है कहाँ? क्योंकि मुझे लगता है आप उत्तर देंगे कि भाई काशी में है, प्रयाग में है, या फिर लखनऊ में है, या फिर हरियाणा के किसी क्षेत्र में है। तो
मैं समझ गया,
क्षेत्र में जाएंगे।
मैं समझ गया, हम फिर बाद में बात करेंगे।
मेरा ये दूसरा प्रश्न है कि हिंदी कहाँ पर है?
बहुत छोटी सी बात है।
और तीसरा एक प्रश्न है, छोटा सा प्रश्न है। आप सर डीएसपी रहे हैं जमशेदपुर में, मैं बाहर परिचय में सुना। मैं 3 वर्ष रहा हूँ जमशेदपुर के बगल में चाईबासा, वहाँ पर 8 जनवरी को और 10 जनवरी को शहीद दिवस मनाया जाता है। आप भाषा के शोधार्थी, इसलिए आपको जानना चाहिए। हाँ सर, यहाँ पर
प्लीज।
तो वहाँ 10 जनवरी को सर सरायकेला जो है, वहाँ के राजा उड़िया थे, और वहाँ की प्रजा जो है, सराउंडिंग जो है, आप गए होंगे तो जानते होंगे, वहाँ पर सराउंडिंग जो है आदिवासी है। तो जब डिवीजन हुआ तो वहाँ पर 10 जनवरी को बड़ा युद्ध हुआ, जिसमें आदिवासी लोग मारे गए, और 10 जनवरी आदिवासी शहीद दिवस मनाते हैं सर। तो ये तीसरा आपने जो कहा कि बहुत सहजता से डिवीजन हुआ, ये भारत में हम चूंकि वहाँ प्रत्यक्ष रहे, इसलिए मेरा उसे परिचय है, तो ये इन्फॉर्मेशन आपने जोड़ना था।
मेरा मतलब वो बिल्कुल नहीं था। मैं संक्षेप में आपको बताना चाहता हूँ, छोटी सी बात है कि मेरे कहने का मतलब ये बिल्कुल नहीं था कि हम हिंदी को दोष देना चाहते हैं। शायद मैंने एक बार बीच में कहा, मैं खुद हिंदी बोलता हूँ, और मैथिली बोलने वाले लोगों ने मुझे हिंदी बोलने वाला ही आइडेंटिफाई किया, वो मुझे मैथिली बोलने वाला मानते भी नहीं। तो मेरी हिंदी से कोई बैर नहीं है। एक मिनट मुझे ख़त्म करने दीजिए और लोगों को बोलना है
मेरा सिंपल सा पॉइंट ये है कि ये जो तरह तरह के स्पीकर्स को हिंदी बोलने वालों के साथ क्लब करके देखा जाता है, इससे जो हमारी पहचान है उस पर असर पड़ता है। बस इतना सा कहना है। उसका ये बिल्कुल मतलब नहीं है कि हिंदी हमारी लैंग्वेज नहीं है। इसी को आपने पूछा कि हिंदी कहाँ बोली जाती है, मैं ये आपके लिए छोड़ना चाहता हूँ। आप ढूंढिए हिंदी कहाँ बोली जाती है। मेरी नज़र में जहाँ जहाँ अंग्रेजी बोली जाती है, जैसा अंग्रेजी का अस्तित्व हिंदुस्तान में है, उसी तरह हिंदी का अस्तित्व है और होना भी चाहिए। और देवरिया, लखनऊ, बनारस में भी हिंदी प्राथमिक रूप से नहीं बोली जाती है। मैं इतना कह करके ख़त्म करता हूँ। झारखंड के बारे में मेरी जानकारी ज़्यादा नहीं है। मैं तो कभी ठीक से मधुबनी नहीं गया। फिर बाद में बात कहीं नहीं बोली जाती है। मैं चेयरमैन की व्यवस्था समझता हूँ। इस तरह का कंटीजियस और डिफ़िकल्ट इशू पर बात करने के लिए आपके बीच में हिम्मत जुटा पाया। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दैट। और बाकी लोगों को बोलना है, आपसे बात करने के लिए मैं पूरी किसी से भी बात करने के लिए तैयार हूँ। अब हम बात कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर राजेश। और वस्तुतः सम्मेलन यही होता है, आपस में बातचीत हो, विमर्श हो और तब निष्कर्ष निकलता है। राजेश जी की बातों में जिन्होंने अपना सहयोग दिया उनको भी धन्यवाद। और अब हम दूसरे वक्ता की ओर बढ़ेंगे। मैं सादर आमंत्रित करता हूं डॉक्टर अमरेंद्र कुमार शर्मा जी को, जो मिथिला विश्वविद्यालय के सीएम कॉलेज से अवकाश प्राप्त किए हैं अंग्रेजी के प्राध्यापक के रूप में। और इनका टॉपिक है फ्रॉम एरर टू एक्सेलेंस, एन अल्ड्राइवन अप्रोच टू करेक्ट इंग्लिश ग्रामेटिकल मिस्टेक अमॉन्ग बिहारी स्टूडेंट। वाकई न केवल इंग्लिश के लिए, बल्कि जब तक आते हैं अमरेंद्र बाबू अपने पोजीशन में, क्षेपक के रूप में मैं कह दूं कि यह मिस्टेक जो लगता है कि अपरिहार्य हो गया है हमारी पीढ़ी में। कल एक महाविद्यालय के निरीक्षण के क्रम में एक वर्ग में गया, एक छात्रा जो है अपनी उत्तर पुस्तिका में 2 वाक्य लिखी हुई थी, भारतीय कला की प्रकृति, पुनः इसको दोहराई थी अपने ही उस एक अनुच्छेद में, भारतीय कला की प्रकृति। मैं उससे पूछा कि इस दोनों की और की में क्या फर्क है, बताओ। दुर्भाग्य है, मैं अपना भी समझता हूं कि हम ऐसे ही बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं, पढ़ा रहे हैं, मेरे घर में है, परिवार में है, इससे 2-4 हम होते रहते हैं। डॉक्टर शर्मा इंग्लिश ग्रामेटिकल जो मिस्टेक है खास करके बिहारी स्टूडेंट में पाया जाता है, छात्रों के बीच में रहे हैं, विदेश भी अपने विद्वता को प्रदर्शित करने के लिए गए हैं, फिर लौटे हैं हम सबों के बीच, आज यहाँ उपस्थित हैं।
पूरे स्लाइडिंग कर दीजिए, पूरे स्क्रीन
पावर प्रेजेंटेशन के माध्यम से अपनी बातों को रखेंगे।
अभी यही है।
हाँ ठीक, बात जी जी।
थैंक यू
थैंक यू सर।
My warm greetings to the honorable hosts and also to the guests and also to my esteemed colleagues. After Rajesh sir, my talk will be just like traveling in a passenger train. His was Vande Bharat. Mine will be traveling in a passenger train. But anyway, let us try I begin my talk right with a question to the floor. How effective is English teaching in schools, colleges and universities? Because if you look at the whole scenario, there are schools, colleges and universities which are going without botany and zoology and home science, but you will never find any institution, at least in Bihar, I'm talking about, where English is not taught. It means every school, every college, every university and every institution has got English teachers. They are teaching English. They say that they are teaching English with passion, with zeal and with enthusiasm. But what is the result? This question is left to the floor to answer and also to meditate. I am a very positive person, but I can say with a certain amount of certainty that the result is not very encouraging. Not very encouraging. Projects are there in front of us. There are students who are studying in CBSE system or ICSE system. They are doing amazing things. But you know, we have got a vast majority of students who are following Bihar board system. Do you think that the result is very encouraging? In spite of everything, in spite of every school having good number of teachers, and they claim that they are doing good work, honest work, passionate work. So this is the question I begin with, and then I expect some answer from you. But because the presentation has got a different format, I can give you some reasons. Reasons are faulty teaching system. Faulty teaching system. One. Two. We have got somewhere bad education policy, or you can say inappropriate education policy. Education policy not suitable to the demand of the situation. I just give you one example. How do you respond or react to the fact that students should write English examinations? Students should write English examination, but we are not worried, we are not bothered if they pass or if they don't pass. Now imagine, do you think that the students will have the same degree of motivation? Because from the beginning, somewhere they have got in their mind, in the back of their mind, that everything is optional. Optional. पढ़ो तब चलेगा, नहीं पढ़ो तब भी चलेगा. This is the beginning. This is where you begin. This is where you begin. Right? If you take your son to a marathon race and keep on telling him, बेटे जीतो तब भला, हारो तब भला, do you think he is going to give the best? He is going to put his 100% efforts there? Because you have given him the option right from the very beginning. Come to the next reason. if you come to the third region, then third region is undue emphasis on literature. Undue emphasis. So a student is supposed to know everything about literature, even in the beginning, intermediate classes, Wordsworth and Milton and Browning and Tennyson. But we have never taken care of their skill development. If English is a language, English is a second language, admitted fact, he or she is supposed to know English. You have never thought of their skill development. You have not planned the syllabus or the curriculum so that they develop their reading or writing or listening or speaking. So they are not good readers. Most of them are not readers also. They are not readers. When I go to the competitive exams, they read the same text 3 or 4 times, and after third or fourth attempt, when they don't get anything, then they feel nervous, they feel disturbed, they are not getting the answer. You know, we never think of developing their reading or writing or listening, speaking skill. So they are not good users of language. Not good speakers, not good listener, not good speakers. And then we expect the whole sky from them. This is something ridiculous. There are lots of reasons. Materials are not good. They are not friendly. Even if they get materials, materials are not integrated. Nowadays, right, we need integrated materials which can develop their reading, writing, listening and speaking skills together. So there are lots of reasons. Implicit learning, explicit learning. Even in the school, grammar is a curriculum where you pour grammar on them, but you never develop an atmosphere where they can practice English. At least in the public school system, they have got implicit teaching, implicit learning, where they are encouraged to read books, encouraged to talk, and because they have already read depend on 100 times, so even in the middle of the night they will write depend on only, because that has become a part of their system, no? That has become a part of their awareness. So there are lots of reasons, but I am going to focus now today, right, on grammatical errors. So now if you come to their errors, in the beginning I told you that I am a very positive person. I don't take I don't take their mistakes as the real problems. Errors are signs of development. Errors are there because they are trying to develop. Errors are there because they are trying to achieve something. At least errors are there because they are better than those who are not trying at all. So errors are acceptable. But what kind of errors do they have? Subject verb agreement. All these are only reference points. I'm not going to depend much on my PowerPoint, just reference points. This is one area they commit error, subject verb agreement. Time and tense. Somehow they have been taught that there is a clear-cut correspondence between tense and time. Clear-cut correspondence. You know, in the school, somehow a very healthy, healthy teaching is not being done. Also, if they are committing errors, right, in cases of tenses, time and tense, then somewhere the school system is also responsible. You teach that there is a complete correspondence between tense and time, means present tense will refer to present time, past tense will refer to past time, and future tense will refer to future time. Now, it is a question to be thought, question of, right, to be deliberated upon, that this is not true in all the cases. If you say, I play football daily in the afternoon, this is a construction made in present tense, but this refers to all the three times. This refers to present time and past time and also future time. So time and tense is not a very simple issue. You'll be surprised to know that when I go to my class, I check with them what is the definition of time. If you don't ask me the definition of time, I know. But if you ask me what is the definition of time, I don't know. Then I start, right, giving options, and finally we come to the conclusion that time is also physical because it has got its existence. Wherever you go, time will be there. But this is not, right, a notebook, this is not an object, but this is a concept. Time is a physical concept. We can think about it, we can talk about it, we can discuss about it, but we are not going to smell it and hold it in our hand. So time has got a psychological reality also. I give you one example. Time spent in the hospital, God forbid, when you are attending on a terminally ill person, and time spent in a wedding party. These two times are entirely different. Time spent there, right, is a terrible time. 1 minute equals to 1 year, and here the whole night, 10 or 12 hours, get spent just like fraction of seconds. So the awareness of time is entirely different. And the same thing happens in time and tense. You use present progressive by saying that my professor is teaching English this year. So the whole year gets compressed at the present time. And I give you another example. You can say, oh, Mr. John came to see me a second ago. So a second ago, past tense, and my teacher is teaching subject X or Y this year, so the whole year becomes present progressive. So lots of things have to be done, and it all depends. Now, right, there are errors in pronoun antecedent. So if you look at the pronoun antecedent, then people say that, right, it has to agree not only with the person, but also with the number and also with the gender. And if you are not careful, then errors are quite likely in this area also. Articles, the same problem. We have been teaching in every school that there are 5 vowels. 5 vowels. Vowels are 20. Vowels are 20. Because the rules of article is meant for the sound, not for the letters. So if you are not making them aware about the different sounds, then what will happen? Then they are going to learn rules which are going to be useful for some words and not useful for many. So at the end of the day, they are left with so many exceptions. This is what is happening. If you talk about the post modifier, you have to write the. If you say students of Cambridge University, you cannot write, because you have made the students specific by giving the post modifier. So what I want to say is this, that if you miss something in the teaching, then the result is not going to be very healthy. Then you have got errors in the area of prepositions, then sentence structure, then modifiers. Come to the modifiers, we have got pre-modifier and post-modifiers. So if the teacher is not going to make them aware about different kinds of modifiers like pre-modifiers and post-modifiers, then they are likely to commit errors in that area. I just give you one example. If you talk about the pre-modifier, there is some kind of system that if you talk about the pre-modifier, predeterminer comes first, then determiner, then ordinal, then quantifier, then adjective phrase, then classifier, and finally noun, the head word. If you talk only about the pre-modifier. And if you talk about the post-modifier, then you have got lots of other things like prepositional phrase. And you know, if you are not going to talk about all these things with clarity, then they remain confused, and instead of writing first 5 students, they will write first 5 and then first. I need these 5 students, first 5. They will write the opposite. So, because they are not trained right in the right way, then in English language there is a rule of parallelism. So if you are using infinitive or ing form, you have to use it right with some kind of consistency. I want to buy a dress, to eat in a good hotel, you know, all infinitive. Or I love singing, dancing, playing, walking, all ing form. So this is the rule, no? And this is what we call it in parallelism. So if you are not drawing some kind of parallel things, then you are making mistakes. So you are not following the rule of parallelism. Sentence fragments, they break the sentence where the situation does not warrant it. So then they have got run-on sentences. It goes on and on, unpunctuated, without any punctuation. So you don't know what is happening. The meaning is not clear. Pragmatics is not clear. So one has to be very, very careful. And then there are commonly confused words also. Sometimes they try to mix up their, THERE, with they are, right, or THEIR. So there is going to be an adverb. THEIR is going to be the possessive of they, and they are is going to be, right, the abbreviated form of they are. So all these three are three things, but they keep on mixing all these things. Then modal verbs, they normally do not know the difference between permission and ability. So instead of using may, they write can. Sometimes they don't know the difference between obligation, right, and really some kind of urgent requirement. So they try to get confused between should and must. Then What is the remedy? Remedy is there. When problems are there, remedies have to be there, solutions have to be there, and in every time we have different kind of remedies. Now with the advent of artificial intelligence, lots of things are being done by the system, by the technology, and I urge all the students to take maximum advantage of technology. So, in the classroom I asked my students, why don't you chat at least for half an hour, right, on WhatsApp? Because if you are writing your idea for half an hour on WhatsApp, your writing ability will improve and your critical ability will also improve because you are writing.
Sir,
Yeah. Okay, sir. So, I am getting hint. So, so I have selected 4 AI tools. 4 AI tools. There are many. 4 AI tools, and one is going to be Grammarly. It has got its right advantages. Then we have got Pro Writing Aid. It also has got its advantages. Then we have got Quillbot with lots of advantages. And then finally I come to Word Tune. This also has got its advantage, and if you are interested, right, I can send you the PPT or the paper to you. So I am getting hint from sir. So should I stop, sir, or can I take some time? Anyway, right, I would love to get any question from you. Right.
ऐसा है